All right. Hey there, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. Afternoon here on the East Coast for this webinar where we're going to be talking about the power of social media in recruitment. So I'm really excited and super passionate about this subject. My goal here over the next several minutes, going to be about a half hour or so, and then Q&A at the end, is really to uncover and share the things that, so I'm the CEO and co-founder of BoostPoint, and BoostPoint, we help with recruitment marketing, specifically with social media. So my goal is to share all the things we've learned, and I've personally learned with advertising on the Facebook and Instagram, the Meta platforms over the past 10 years. I jumped in early on in my career and really dove into the heart and the core of social media advertising early on. So I just want to share all of the things, the main tips and tricks that we have learned to make social media advertising successful for your recruitment marketing efforts. So I'm excited about jumping into this topic here today. The first, I'm going to talk a little bit about, okay, what types of channels and things like that. And then the meat of this webinar is really, we're going to be talking about the specifics, the best practices, how to get the most out of these platforms for your recruitment marketing. So I'm excited to jump right in here today. So let's first talk about, why social media. There's so many channels out there that you could be investing in for your recruitment marketing efforts. And where does social media fit within your recruitment marketing strategies? So the top reasons that I encourage organizations to invest time and money into social media, number one is it's a way to tap into the passive candidate pool. So 73% of people applying for jobs today are categorized as passive job seekers. This means they're not yet searching on platforms like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and other online job boards for new positions, but yet they're in the position where if they'd be presented with something, they'd seriously consider it. So that's 73% of the candidate pool. And the only way we can access that pool of candidates is getting to them before they maybe know they need a new job or before they're searching. So that's where this whole conversation of recruitment marketing comes into play. And why social media is such a big part of that is because of the audience. And the audience is the second reason, usually, why I really encourage people to tap into these platforms. On social media, you have such a diverse audience that you can present your brand, your employment opportunities in front of. So there's just such a wide variety and a diverse audience on these social media platforms. So let's talk specifically about the channels. So again, there's a lot of places you could invest your time and money. There's traditional media, TV, radio, billboards, things like that. And then, you have a lot on the digital side, and then social media is one of those categories. And what I really want to talk about today, the platforms, is three social platforms specifically. So that's going to be Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So the Meta company, historically known as Facebook, owns Facebook and Instagram. So that's Meta, the Meta advertising platform, and then TikTok as well. The reason I want to talk specifically about these platforms is this is where your most engaged audience is right now on social media, and some of the biggest platforms with the biggest user bases. So just in the US alone, there are over, let me find my notes here, 243 million active users on the Facebook platform. So Facebook's been around a long time. They're kind of, the 2,000-pound gorilla in the social media space, kind of old news, but they still have such a large user base when you compare them to other social media platforms. So that's 73% of the US population has an active Facebook account. Secondarily, then TikTok. They are at 150 million active users in the US, and that's 45% of the total US population. And so the reason TikTok, again, you would have asked me 12 months, 24 months ago, TikTok would not have been a part of a webinar like this, but you've seen massive user growth on the TikTok platform over the past 12 months, 12, 18 months especially. And the advertising capabilities on this platform are now relevant enough where you can get a positive enough ROI, where I feel it should be a part of any organization's recruitment marketing efforts. So we definitely want to talk about TikTok here as well. I mean, TikTok, they've been in the news a lot lately. I just want to kind of maybe rabbit trail here a little bit, kind of my perspective on TikTok right now. I'm not going to dive into, there's a lot of opinions out there. I'll put it that way. I'll try to keep my personal opinions kind of away from this, but just kind of look at, where things are at. I mean, TikTok, there's talk about getting them banned in the US or not. Should they be banned or should they not? Again, I don't have a huge personal opinion on this, and I'll keep that out of it. But what I'm seeing is TikTok has a big enough user base in the US right now. It's really hard. I'll put it this way. It's really hard to take something that about half of the US population, has an active account with and just rip it out of the culture. And so, TikTok has kind of reached that user growth in the US that, it would be hard to see it go. And so, again, I definitely wouldn't put all your eggs in the TikTok basket. If you're looking to, build a healthy recruitment marketing strategy, I think it should be a part of your strategy, but don't put all your eggs in that basket just because of the volatility of, the platform right now. So another specific angle I want to take here as I'm about to jump into the key formulas for success for leveraging these platforms I'm going to be talking mainly about the advertising strategy for these platforms. So you look at social media, any social media platform, you have the ability to create and post content and post it to your page or your profile organically for free. And people that are following you, they will see that content, and you can start building an employer brand for free. In essence, you have to pay for the creation of the content, of course, but you don't have to pay for the eyeballs that are seeing your posts. So that's the organic side. We're specifically going to talk about the advertising side here today. So each one of these platforms has an advertising machine behind it. I mean, the Meta platform, their revenue is generated by advertising dollars spent on their platform. They have this huge audience, and us as advertisers can access their audience to place ads, just like historically you've been able to place TV ads, radio ads, newspaper ads, things like that. You can do the same thing on these social media platforms. And that's what we're specifically going to be talking about here today. One of the reasons I really like these social media platforms with their huge audiences is when you compare it to a lot of other potential channels, especially when you compare it to traditional channels. You look at the ROI comparison of investing thousands of dollars into a billboard campaign or a TV ad campaign. Your ROI dollar for dollar on these social media platforms is such a higher ROI, such a higher multiple than what you receive on a lot of traditional media. When you look at, all right, if you really want to calculate your cost per applicant, cost per hire metrics, they're going to be a lot lower on these specific social media chat platforms if you're leveraging the right formula versus other advertising channels. And then also the brand impact of it is kind of best of both worlds. It's a great place to fill your top of funnel applicant pipeline, but the brand equity that you get out of this as well. You can post a video to TikTok, and have put some advertising dollars behind it and have, millions of views behind that piece of content, in a couple weeks, just by leveraging the right formulas. So let's jump into that. What are the, I like to, you break these down in 4 keys to success. So this formula, there's going to be 4 pillars here that I'm going to jump into and give specific examples of what this looks like for these social media platforms. All right, so the first one is targeting. So you have, well, what is that number? 243 million users. Say you're an organization in the US and looking to add applicant pipeline, for your open positions in the US. There's 243 million active users in the US. Well, how do you target the right users with your ads? And this is one of the great things about these social media platforms is how targeted you can curate your audiences, for your ads. So the first obvious one is geography. You can get very specific in the areas that you want to target with ads. So, say you have a warehousing facility, or you're in hospitality, you have a hotel that you need to staff, or a resort. You can advertise very specifically, geo-specific around those areas. Say you're advertising remote positions, you can look at, hey, certain pockets of cities or areas, or all, a whole country, as well, with ads. So location is kind of that first layer of targeting that you can apply. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you have such a diverse candidate pool that you can tap into as well. And the ways that you can kind of dial that in as well is the type of content that you're highlighting for your ads. The types of one thing that's unique about a social media ad, maybe versus a Google ad or an Indeed ad, is you're leveraging either a photo or a video, for every single ad. And so what you highlight in your photos and videos, and that you can really pull out specific aspects of your brand and diversity with your content to attract certain people on these platforms. And so that's, again, one of the ways that you can kind of dial in the targeting is, and again, Meta is really, TikTok as well, they're really data companies. And so they have, there's a lot of data that, they have dissected with their, user base that you can also leverage with targeting. And so the combination of those 3 things, you can really dial in your persona of the type of people that you're targeting. Are you targeting professional roles, non-professional roles, blue collar, white collar jobs? Those are very different personas that are on these platforms. And you can target them specifically by leveraging some of those strategies. One of the things I'll note here as well, Facebook's targeting algorithm, they've needed to become for diversity compliance, especially around certain categories of advertising, like employment opportunities. You can't be super specific and, calling out age, race, gender, for the specific targeting. But there's ways that you can highlight things by, like I said before, the types of content, the types of videos and imagery that you're using, that there's a learning phase that once you post an ad, and based on the people interacting with your ad, again, the ad algorithm further hones that audience so that, after 2 days of running your ad, say it's a blue collar type of a position, and the types of people that are engaging with the ad, the algorithm will further hone that audience to be more specific in the types of people that they're showing the ad to. So that's a bit around targeting. So kind of my favorite subject within these 4 is the next one here, which is content and the engagement of your ad. So I always look at this as like the X factor with ads. your ad, can perform poorly or really, really well, if you're advertising to the same people based on the content and the engagement of your content. So if Facebook really sees that a lot of people are engaging with your ad, it will the algorithm will show it to more people. So you get more efficient advertising metrics with the same dollar spend. And a lot of that comes down to the actual content that you're advertising. So it's more the creative side versus the technical side of advertising. So I'll give some examples here of what we've really seen, the types of ads that we've seen perform really well on these platforms. So I'll first talk about video. Video can be a fantastic tool, when on these platforms. But the types of videos that you're leveraging make a huge difference with how your ad will perform. So I'm going to pull up a video here and share it on my screen just to give you an example of types of videos that we've seen perform really well for job ads. All right, pulling that up right now. And all right. Apologize about the delay here and sharing my screen. Here we go. So I'm just going to play this video. It's a short video. Usually we see videos between 7 to 15 seconds usually perform the best. I'm just going to go ahead and play this here right now.
We are hiring in your local area. There's great pay, awesome benefits. Click the link below to apply.
So something like that, maybe historically when you think of, the types of videos that perform well in ads, let's do a full production. Let's do a full maybe culture case study for our organization, a 3 to 5 minute video, and where those videos still have good purpose in other areas. But what we see perform super well on platforms like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, are these more like these user generated types of videos where this is more that selfie style vertical style, just kind of inviting somebody into the position. These types of videos, we've done a ton of A/B tests, and this style of video always outperforms, something that's maybe, what's the terminology I want to use? Maybe something that's higher production value, with a lot of different camera angles, maybe the perfect lighting and things like that, fully scripted. That type of video isn't going to perform quite as good as something like this in the specific context of a Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok ad. So that's a bit of tips and tricks like on the video side. If you're going to use video in social media, it's got to be short. It's got to be very much to the point, and think through the lens of the viewer. Usually, I always like to talk to my creative team before they go into a video production, like literally spend maybe 5 minutes going through Instagram Reels, TikTok Reels, Facebook Reels, just scrolling through some of the content, just that's you're organically seeing there, not the ads, but what you're seeing organically. And then think about, how can I build that same style of video for my ad? All right, so let's talk about a bit about imagery here. So again, like I said before, Facebook and Instagram, you're either going to need a video or a photo, those two assets for your ad. And TikTok right now, it's only video. So if you want to advertise on TikTok, you will need video assets. So the next thing I'm going to share on my screen here is some photo examples. So these are like just 2 examples here, but a couple tips I'll share here. If you're leveraging photos for recruitment ads, is make sure it's of people. Like we're highlighting job opportunities. It's not a product. We're not trying to sell an iPhone or sell a MacBook. So we're not trying to sell the company. We're trying to sell the employment opportunity. And that's kind of a big shift that I see for recruitment marketing as well, is we're not placing job descriptions, and turning those into Facebook ads. We're taking that job description and kind of viewing that requisite as a product. And how do we sell this job opportunity to this audience, that's scrolling through on Facebook and Instagram. So kind of get inside that mindset. And again, here's a couple examples of, say you're a casino and the types of images you might want to highlight for your ads. Again, images of people kind of doing their thing, and a happy snapshot is always a plus. But we've seen this a lot more effective if you would run, say you're a logistics company, and you could maybe highlight a photo of a truck driving down the road, Route I-95, in the sunset, type of thing, where that might be a great looking photo, but something with a photo of a person, a driver, actually having a good time is going to perform better than, photography of, the landscape or, something else. And then the other thing I want to talk about here is your ad text is also a big key and a big component to your ads performing super well. Like your headline, the anatomy, I'll kind of tear down the anatomy here of specifically a Facebook ad, is you'll have the image or video, and that's usually what will stop the scroll. Someone's scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, the image and the video, that's usually what captures people's attention. Then they're going to look at the headline. And if they're still interested, they're going to read the rest of the copy. And then, at some point, click the ad if they actually want to take action on what you're presenting them. So thinking about that is helpful in the ways that you want to structure the content of your ad. So if they're seeing an image, sometimes you could even put text in the image, like now hiring, position, title. But you at least want to put something like that in the headline. So again, think through this, like they're scrolling through Facebook, they're not in Indeed. So you can't assume that they're looking for an employment opportunity. So you have to make sure that you're capturing and conveying that, in the headline, like within seconds of them landing on your ad, that this needs to be conveying that, hey, this is an employment opportunity. And then a few things, kind of go through a few things you'll want to highlight, like in your ad text. You're going to want to talk a bit about what the might be their motivation for wanting a new job. That's often how we like to, start the actually body copy of the ad. Is you're not jumping right into, how your company is different and selling them on your company, but first talk about what might their motivations be for wanting a new job. Like, how are you creating that interest? Like, what questions can you ask, that might get them thinking of, like, what? Yeah, I do need to think about a new opportunity. Maybe are you fulfilled in your career? Hey, are you getting paid what you're worth? Questions like that can speak to the problems that they might be trying to solve in their life. And that's really what you want to trigger first, instead of just jumping right in and talking about the employment opportunity. Once you get their hook into the ad like that, then you can kind of talk about the opportunity and how you could help solve that problem for them. And then also highlighting, key points of, some of the main benefits maybe of the position, what's the pay, maybe there's a sign-on bonus, what are the health benefits, what are the things that other people find attractive about this job opportunity, and highlighting those in the ad, but not starting with that right off the bat. Another interesting note here, we've been doing quite a bit of research on this over the past several months, is incorporating artificial intelligence, generative AI, into recruitment advertising. These images right here actually on the screen are AI generated. So it's interesting. You're definitely going to see a lot more of this in the coming months, as far as ways that you can creatively incorporate AI into your advertising efforts for recruiting. And keep your eyes peeled. In a couple of weeks, we're going to do a webinar specifically about generative AI and how it's influencing recruitment marketing. So keep your eyes peeled for that webinar coming up. You can follow us on LinkedIn, any of the social media platforms, if you want to stay up to date about some of those things. But the way generative AI is evolving, even just the past 2-3 months, it's getting pretty good. There's definitely ways that you can leverage it to make your recruitment marketing efforts more efficient and even more effective. All right, so let's move on to the last couple of points here. I have two more points to cover in the formulas for success. These are a bit shorter, so I'll kind of jump into these quite quickly. So that the third thing is conversion. So now you've captured their attention. You're targeting the right people with your ad. You're using creative content to engage them. What's next? How do you actually, at the end of the month, your reporting metrics, how do you go from, we got a lot of people to see our ad to like, hey, we've got a lot of people to apply for our positions. Like we're actually seeing healthy candidate flow that we're not getting from Indeed, that we're not getting from other sources, and ultimately hiring people for your positions. That's what I'm super passionate about, is not just how do we get eyeballs on your organization and your brand, but how do you actually attract people for your open positions? And that's what I'm super passionate about. And this, what I'm going to talk about next, is a big component of that specifically. So I'm going to pull up another thing here on the screen. Give me 1 second. There we go. So here's kind of the applicant experience that you're trying to create through social media advertising. And this all kind of needs to work together. So for the first thing we talked about already is like, all right, placing that engaging ad, having that show up to the right people on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The second thing here is the conversion. Like, how do we actually take people from seeing and being interested in our content to actually applying for our positions so that we can connect them with a recruiter and take them through the hiring process? So the conversion method is extremely important here. We've done, again, a ton of A/B tests around this specifically. And this is one of those kind of underlying components you might not think it's super important, but it really, really is. We've seen the right conversion method versus a bad conversion method, there being like a gap of 10 to 15x better conversion, leveraging a more streamlined conversion method versus something that's more antiquated. So let's talk about what you want to do, and then we'll maybe do a couple of like do nots. So the first thing that you'll want to do is think about streamlining the process. So that's kind of the first lens here. Specifically through Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, the platforms we're talking about now, you can actually create this quick apply-like experience within these platforms. So you can leverage their internal conversion pages and within their platforms to create kind of like this quick apply-like experience that you might see on Indeed. So you're capturing their basic contact information, their first name, last name, phone number, email address, and then you can also ask, pre-screening or qualifying questions in this as well, but you're not asking them to submit their full resume or to go through like a full application process. And so, an example, what this would look like is, again, you're just asking that those basic questions and contact information and qualifying questions, instead of linking that out to maybe your career site and expecting them to kind of go through a full application process. One thing that's important to keep in mind here is like when you're capturing these people, it's mostly going to be on their mobile devices. And so they're scrolling through their social media platforms, maybe on lunch or leisure time in the evening, and they're not in front of their computer. It's not like they have their resume right in front of them. And so, if it's going to take more than several minutes to, answer these questions, they'll most likely be distracted and move on to something else. So you want to make sure you're engaging with them, helping them inquire about the position very easily. So again, there's internal conversion pages within these platforms that you can then capture the candidate data, and then you'll want to link that out to your ATS. This is where having the right software platforms can be super helpful to streamline this, because say you're advertising for multiple positions, candidate data is coming in. How do you get that from Facebook, maybe into your ATS, or at least into your recruiter's hands? Having the right type of technology and software around this is extremely helpful to actually not have a bottleneck in your recruitment process. That's one of the things our software does really well. BoostPoint, we connect with the Facebook ads API, TikTok ads API, and we can streamline that straight into your ATS. People are applying and connecting them with the recruiter right away. So the conversion method, extremely important. I've seen ads that are identical from the creative, but different conversion methods, one more antiquated, one leveraging kind of this strategy here. And you'll see 10 to 15 times better conversion rates. And that goes into your cost per applicant, your cost per hire metrics by leveraging the right conversion method. So extremely important there. The last thing here I want to talk about before we get into Q&A, and just going to tap into Q&A here in a couple minutes. So if there's any questions, you could either throw those in the Q&A right now, or kind of at the end here when we're wrapping up, feel free to throw those in. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cough in my throat. I get pretty excited when I talk about these things, and sometimes my voice goes away at the end of these webinars. Apologize about that. So the last thing I want to talk about here is text message follow-up, or quickly following up with candidates is kind of the last phase to wrap this up. You can generate hundreds, thousands of candidates, but if you don't have a streamlined connection process with these candidates, your conversion rate will definitely suffer. So the experience that we recommend and that we help companies implement is this experience where someone's seeing your ad, they click on it, they inquire about it, apply, and then you instantly connect with them after they apply via an automated text message that maybe looks like it's coming from a recruiter, or at least something to immediately engage the candidates so that they know that, hey, this is real, and it's not something that I'll forget in 2 days. Most recruitment processes that I jump into and help organizations with, the follow-up process is usually 1 to 2 days after someone initially inquires about their positions and applies for their positions. That's too long. Frankly, for especially social media applicants coming through social media channels. Like, you're going to increase your conversion rates immensely by incorporating some sort of instant connection, automatic reply, especially on leveraging the text messaging channel. Data out there right now is showing that 87% of people don't answer their phone if they don't recognize the caller ID. Only 20% of emails are ever opened, and then even a lot lower reply rate. Whereas text messaging, we're seeing within our platform about a 40 to 45% reply rate on average. So to that initial text message. So you'll usually see a really good engagement rate from candidates if you're leveraging text message in your follow-up process. All right, gonna take a quick pause here, and we are going to jump into Q&A. So I hope everyone found this information super valuable. Right now, the Q&A is going to be open, so you can click that question and answer section on the bottom of the Zoom here. Type in any of your questions. This is some of my favorite parts of these webinars, is some of the questions that we can jump in and answer. So got a couple coming in here right now. Excuse me. All right, I've got a question here. This is a great question. What are some of the ways to come up with ad content if you don't have a marketer employed? This is actually something that it's a problem that's really that I run into a lot, and it's one that we're really passionate about at BoostPoint, because I see recruitment teams, TA teams, HR teams sometimes in an island where there's not a close bridge to marketing teams. And it can be a challenge to access good, marketing content for ads. So one way would be to, leverage another company. Our platform BoostPoint solves this problem, by where our software gives you access to ad content, and you can deploy that through our platform. If you don't have the budget or you can't onboard into a software platform, I will say AI is becoming a really, really good tool to spark some of these, ideas. Maybe you're a part of a recruitment team. Hey, you need to launch some ads. Leveraging, something like ChatGPT with the right prompts to at least get you started in the right direction can at least give you an outline of what an ad could look like. Another question here. Will this presentation be shared after this session is finished? Yes, an email will be sent either this afternoon or tomorrow sometime with a link and a recording to this presentation. So if you want to share this or review it later, there will be a link. If you're registered for the webinar, you'll automatically get an email sent. Here's another good question. So do you have an example of a good ad with now hiring words, and how many words are too much? All right, so let's jump into this a little bit. So we're talking about the ad text. So talking about like looking at a Facebook ad, for example, a couple keywords that you'll definitely want to include for the viewability of your ad is, like mentioned here by this question, definitely like now hiring or something similar to that, like in the headline. Like usually a good framework, our ad specialist teams, we look at like the framework of an ad. And so like you have a headline framework, you'll want to include the position title and that you're hiring. So like just communicate that. It's hard to have, I don't often look at the length of text as like a barrier or a limiter. It's easy to have not enough text versus too much text. If the text is meaningful, it's hard to have too much text. But I'll kind of talk through a little bit of a framework for thinking through ad copy. Like you'll want the hook at the beginning, talking about the person, like what problems are they solving? And then how this position maybe can help them solve this problem. So, hey, are you feel like you're not getting paid enough? Hey, we have competitive pay and awesome benefits. And then you'll also want to go through definitely the core benefits of the position. Social proof is a great thing to bring into ad copy if you have that. Like maybe you have Glassdoor reviews or reviews of your existing employees talking about the position. Those are great components to bring to your ad. So if you have meaningful ad copy like that, it's hard to get too long, but definitely shy away from just putting in filler content just to be there. But if it's meaningful, it's hard to be too long. Do you have a specific cost breakdown? Next question here, to post ads on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok? This is a good question. So again, we run ads on all of these platforms. Facebook is where we're seeing the most positive ROI right now. Kind of across the board for all positions. And then, so that's where I would put the majority of your ad budget. If you're looking to invest in multiple channels, or, maybe you only have the budget to add one channel, Facebook should be that platform right now. That might change in 12, 24 months from now, but for right now, and I would foresee for the next 12 months at least, Facebook is still going to be your most ROI positive channel. So then, all right, maybe then the question is, well, why would you advertise on other channels if you get the most from Facebook? I look at this as diversity. You'll see other candidates come in through platforms like TikTok that you wouldn't see from Facebook or Instagram. And so just looking at, where's the balance there? I put the majority in what you're getting the most ROI out of, but then look at, hey, maybe there's that 20, 30%, that you can put into other channels for diversity's sake. Going through a couple more questions here. I've got a couple more minutes. We'll go through. Okay, here's what I definitely want to touch on. So what do you think? what do you suggest to be the best recruitment strategy for a hard to fill position? So maybe this is a more specialized position. Social media can be a great way to establish your brand. For like, one position we run into a lot is RNs. RNs are extremely hard positions to fill. And there's just no way of getting around it right now with, the amount of positions that are open and the candidate pool for, it's just a simple rule of supply and demand. But a good strategy for filling a position like that is, casting a decently wide net. The other nice thing about social media is it's very shareable. And people can mention ads to their friends and tag their friends in the posts and things like that. So casting a decently wide net can be really good. And then being very specific in following up then is very big as well. I will say in general, like if you're looking for investing a lot of advertising dollars into social media, you'll probably get the most positive ROI with more entry level types of positions or high volume types of hiring. If you're looking for specific candidates that you can hire, and then specialty roles, you'll want to be a bit more of a I'm trying to find the right word, like specific in how you approach your strategy for more harder to fill positions. And it'll take more strategic follow-up and networking with the candidates as they're coming in, and to identify and find and then ultimately hire them. Got a couple more questions here. All right, so here's a great one. It kind of links into the last question as well. It's, can you replicate this strategy for LinkedIn? What would that look like? Or would you recommend like a different strategy for LinkedIn? Is there direct correlation in comparison Facebook to LinkedIn? The reason I didn't bring LinkedIn into today's conversation is because it is quite a bit of a different strategy. Number one is you have a very different audience on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you'll have a lot more, white collar types of positions versus blue collar. And the advertising component of LinkedIn is a little bit different. It tends to be a little bit more expensive as well. LinkedIn, I do look at as a platform for more of your specialty types of roles, because those types of people are on LinkedIn more so than than more entry level type positions. So that would be kind of where I'd look differently for sure about, a LinkedIn strategy versus a Facebook and TikTok strategy. LinkedIn, will be the better place probably for more professional types of roles. It takes a bit more effort. Like, again, LinkedIn is a great database for, kind of like a headhunting resource, again, but that's not an advertising strategy as well. So I would definitely look at LinkedIn quite differently than I would Facebook and Instagram, just because the platforms are built very differently. And all right, we'll get to about 2 or 3 more questions here before we pop off. Into these here. All right, so here's a question kind of around content and content strategy. So I'll read this word for word. What are ways to make a low rate job look more attractive on social media? Example, how can you make a post with a 16-hour pay rate stand out against posts for a different job that's $25 an hour? Great question, by the way. First time I've had this specific question, on a webinar like this. So one of the things here I'll talk about the results and maybe some of the reasoning behind it. What we've seen, some of the jobs that we see perform, best on Facebook and TikTok and these platforms actually are your lower paying jobs, because of the audience, the vast audience on these social media platforms. one of the reasons that, say you have a job, for this example here, 16-hour pay rate, on the lower end than, some of the jobs out there, why you'll still see a very high engagement on a job ad like that is because it's not listed in with 10, 20, 30 other jobs. So you're not, again, someone seeing this ad, it's not on a job board. You're not being compared to 10, 20 other positions, as they're scrolling through Instagram. This is a post that, I made, those with, social media accounts here listening today, I'd like spend, go ahead, spend 10 minutes and after this webinar, just scroll through Facebook or Instagram, whatever platform you might have. Most likely you won't even see an employment opportunity, a job ad, as you're scrolling through. You usually see like their sponsored posts, so you can definitely see what an ad is. You see that little tag under their profile that that it's an ad. But mostly what you see on these platforms are ads around products and, hey, buy this, buy that. And so your job ads, you're usually not being compared to other opportunities, side by side. All right, another question here. Here's a question. Do you suggest to use current employees when posting content or using other marketing materials that may include people who don't work for the company? So this goes into the technicality of, to answer that question, frankly, is, whether you're using an employee or not, it doesn't necessarily matter a whole lot. Like, again, some companies, we work with, or that we build content for, maybe you're using an actor, but what you'll want to communicate basically through the visual, I'll put it this way, is you'll want to definitely have an image of that person performing the work. So whether that's an actual employee or, another actor or something like that, doesn't necessarily matter, but you will want to highlight, okay, someone viewing this ad, like they can kind of put themselves in the shoes of that person. Or like, say you're doing a video, like, again, kind of same thing there. Sure, you could give, I'd recommend giving, if you're using your employees, giving them a little script that they can, kind of talk through. But again, whether you're using an employee or an actor or a hiring manager, inviting them to, apply for the position, doesn't necessarily matter as much, but you definitely do want to highlight people in your imagery and in your content, not just things. All right, so I'm going to wrap up here. That's all the questions we have time for here today. Really appreciate everybody's participation and your attention here on this webinar. I had a really good time talking about this, really passionate about this subject here. Really appreciate the engagement with the questions. And yes, we will be sending this webinar out to everybody via email. Again, like I said, follow us on social media, Boost Point, pretty much on all the social media channels for other content that we're going to be releasing. Again, like I mentioned before, we're going to be doing a webinar here in a couple weeks about how AI, generative artificial intelligence, is affecting recruitment marketing right now and ways that you can take advantage of that. So we're super excited about that subject here in a couple weeks. But until then, hope everybody has a great rest of your Thursday here and rest of the week. And we'll see you on the next webinar. Thanks, everybody.